I think the main thing in terms of, so obviously I didn't have the real fear of leaving a 5-day-a-week job, but the fear for me was a lot of my friends were going down into the corporate route, which is stable, and going into a startup wasn't really seen as normal. It was quite sort of weird in a way, and that was a big leap for me. And there were many times when in the early days where I was like, is this the right thing to do? Maybe I should be applying for grad jobs, and just pushing through.
You're listening to the 9 to Survive podcast, where we speak to the most inspiring entrepreneurs of Australia. I'm your host, Alex Whiteside, the CEO of EasyCompanies. Running your own business can be quite daunting and scary. We're here to show you how to face those fears and help you build your dream today. We listen to the innovators, the game changers, and the thought leaders who have built their startups from the ground up. Hear what makes them tick, how they've overcome their own failures, and be inspired to take your own leap of faith and ignite your passion for business. So on today's show, we have Matt Hinds. He's the co-founder of AgCrowd, which is an investment platform for agriculture and energy. He has a passion for entrepreneurship and started some of his own business in university. So I hope you enjoy his story. All right. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for joining the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Alex.
It's great to have you on the podcast. And as we do with every podcast, you want to just kick off and tell us a little bit about what got you into entrepreneurship and what did you aspire to be when you were young? And did you always have that passion for entrepreneurship, or was it something else?
Yeah, I've always been really creative. So starting businesses from a young age, I think year 6, I started selling fart bombs, which is a bit of a random one in class, and then moved on to sugar straws in year 9, and then all kinds of things.
What was that? How do you run a business at that age?
It was literally selling them out of my locker. So I'd go and buy them for sort of $2 from the corner store and sell them for 30 cents a thing. And made quite a good margin out of that. So
sounds like a Gary Vee thing to do.
It is, a bit ridiculous, but that's sort of got me into the whole mindset with it. And then I wasn't very academic, so I would tend to get distracted with a lot of different things like that. But I knew in year 12 that I wouldn't really get into a uni course if I didn't sort of put my head down.
Yeah.
So luckily I put my head down, but I was really creative in terms of the music sense as well. So I feel like that's another form of entrepreneurship, like trying to create different music and find different cultural sounds, putting that together. But haven't had much time to do that since I started the business, but that sort of got me into the mindset I'm in now. Yeah,
nice. And were you running, well, I know that you're running a business in university. Noggins, was it?
Noggins, yes.
Before AgCrowd.
Yeah.
How did that idea come about? Like what got you into that, and how's that success been to date with that business?
Yeah, I always wanted to start something real, so the sugar straws didn't quite cut it. And we were in second year university and in a residence there, so 3 friends living across from each other, and we really liked the budgie smuggler model. And one of our friends always used to wear this like ridiculous Legionnaire hat, so we actually went to buy them for a party one day and couldn't find them anywhere. So we decided to make them and put a bit of money together each, found a supplier in China and shipped some over, and then started selling them online, and it really spiked with the digital marketing. So we decided to double down on it.
How did you get a business off the ground at like that? Like did anyone else have experience? You other founders, or you just figured it out as you went along?
Yeah, we just figured it out as we went along. I think the bank said to go away 5 times kind of thing. It was one of those businesses, put a scrappy website together. So nothing fancy.
Hack it up. Yeah. And how did you get experience of like going to China and finding this stuff?
No, so we did it all through Alibaba. I did go to China eventually, but the online was a massive enabler for us.
Yeah. And where's that business today? Like, what's happening with that one at the moment? Is that still running? You mentioned it was.
It is still running. Like we had a really good 2 years with it. I actually went to Sweden at the end and lived there for a bit, so got a little bit distracted. But it is still running. Like my co-founders are at Splendor in the Grass right now, having a stall while I'm here. So very jealous.
That's cool though. Like sometimes I look at e-commerce based businesses and I wonder if, the grass is green on the other side. Like you just get a product, you get the idea, and then you pump marketing behind it. And it's like you don't have all these longer lifestyle journeys of a business like AgCrowd or EasyCompanies where there's so many decisions to be made. It's just like, yes, I want it now, and that's it.
Exactly, I really learnt in that business how important the product is. Like, we had a few products before our sort of flagship one, and the flagship one actually took about 60 to 70% of our revenue, which is not the most effective thing in the end, but we learned a lot from how important that is. So
yeah, on an e-commerce level. Yeah. Well, obviously you're here to talk about AgCrowd. So like, where did that, well, that's the business you're running at the moment. Where did that idea come about? What got you into the agriculture space, and most importantly, crowdfunding?
Yeah. So I was still in my third year of university, and my best friend, James Kilby, he's my co-founder now. And I always used to go down to his farm and help. So it's a sheep farm down near Goulburn, in southern New South Wales. And I was doing a finance degree, which is interesting. I worked in a few financial services firms, but it never really sort of made me tick. Didn't really have any impact side to it. So I always wanted to do something impactful with it. And I actually went down to the farm this one time and worked out the returns on his mob of sheep, and realized that it was quite good, and I wanted to invest in it. And so I realized from the other side of agriculture that there was a lack of funding going in, and there was sort of this mismatch. I wanted to invest, he needed funding. How would that work? And so I built out this financial model where you'd invest in a mob of sheep and you'd shear every year, and that would be the dividend. And then from that mob of sheep, you get a new lamb, and that was the capital appreciation. And I applied for an accelerator off the back of sort of that idea on 4 sheets of paper and nothing much more, and luckily got in. And the business is quite different from that today, but that was what sparked the interest in this sector.
This idea didn't exist at all. Like, there wasn't anyone out there doing investment for agriculture in the way that you saw it happening. Like, just simple, I can take a cut of your business, so in return of this, and then in terms of dividends, and like, it just sounds like a different model to what would have been out there.
Yeah, it was really different. So there wasn't anyone doing that, and there are a few reasons why. One is the legislation hadn't really passed to enable retail investors to invest in proprietary and public unlisted companies. So that was one thing. Another thing is it's extremely difficult to build liquidity into sort of a farming model that retail investors would be attracted to. So there is a reason for it, and we found that out the hard way, but we're still pushing on.
Yeah. What was it like applying for an accelerator at the time, like to help get your business off the ground? What were some lessons learned, or things that worked really well there?
Yeah, I think for us, it was being able to pick apart the idea and having a mentor. Like, we got a tiny bit of funding from that, but that really didn't do much at that stage. So I think it was having a mentor who had experience, and that's what I've learned most, being able to be self-aware, realize the gaps that you have in skills and experience, and find someone that can fill those gaps. If you try and do everything yourself, you can only get so far. So that actually helped us pivot to the direction we are now.
Yeah, because it can be hard, like trying to get a business off the ground by yourself, but not everyone is going to have the capacity to apply for an accelerator, right? Like, I mean, obviously everyone can go out there and do it, but they're looking for different types of businesses that are unique and things like that. So it's not to kind of say don't go out there and apply for one, but I think in your case, if it wasn't an accelerator, what kind of route would you have taken?
I'm not actually sure this would have happened, to be honest. Like,
really?
I was honestly really surprised that we got into the accelerator. And I remember going into the final interview, and he said, "Do you understand the regulations around doing this?" And
like crowdsourcing.
Crowdsourcing, because it's equity. People are investing money, so you need a financial license. And I didn't even know what that was at the time. But I learned very quickly, obviously, to get to the point that we are now. But that was sort of a big point where we had to stop and think, is this really what we wanted to do?
Yeah, it's daunting, that AFSL thing, right? Like the Australian Financial Services License.
Yeah.
Just the amount of work that you have to put in to get that out.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw that in a business I was working at before, EasyCompanies, the one I was working in, a startup. It was your share, it was like a cashback model, but they had to get their AFSL. And I remember the founder at the time was just like, "Man, don't ever go and get your AFSL. Hey, like, it's just it costs so much money and so much is behind it. But once you have it and it's in the entity, then you can take it wherever you want." That's the kind of pro to all of that. Like, once it's there, then it's good. Like, you've got it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been sort of fundamental for us in building a backbone around the business. Like we've had to get responsible managers, had to build policies, had to build a legitimate business around it. So it is really valuable in the end.
If anything, you have the structure and the framework now, and it's a more like structured business that you can work in, and you don't have that fear of like, oh, are we doing things right? You know that you're sitting in the frameworks of the government that, you know, make sure you're giving the right advice and things like that.
Exactly. And we could have sort of rented one, but we'd still be paying a subscription at the moment rather than having actual value in the business. So
that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, what other, like, in terms of starting the business, what were the other challenges that you had like faced, or was there a moment when you had to quit your job to go into the business full time? Or you said you were traveling at the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way it works, so I came up with the idea in it was sort of early 2017, and then incorporated the company in July, and then decided to go on exchange to Sweden a month after. So that was a bit of a roadblock, but actually that was probably one of the key pieces in actually building the business, because it enabled me to get out of Sydney. And I feel like a lot of my friends, or at least the mindset at university, is to go into a corporate job. And I probably would have gone down that path if I didn't go to Sweden, because entrepreneurship, I found, is quite, it's a much more viable career path there. So it sort of allowed me to reflect on the mindset and really realize what I wanted to do. And then they have sustainability and a really interesting focus on innovation sort of built into society. So I would travel around and meet different solar companies and things like that, and actually went to the innovation hub there. So when I came back, I decided to double down on this business.
Yeah, nice. And then that's when you got the AFSL and everything, and it kind of kicked off, or you'd already done all that beforehand?
No, yeah, we kicked that off when I came back. So I realized we had to get that, had to build the investment platform.
So you couldn't launch a business while you're in Sweden?
No, I tried to. But
I think there's that dream, isn't there? It's like, I'm gonna run my business halfway across the world, which can work for digital nomad style businesses, like if you're a designer, or it's smaller time, or it's e-commerce or something. But the minute you have investors, or you know, you kind of need that Australian presence, it just makes sense to be here and just get it done. It's so much easier.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a misconception for starting a business. Like I certainly thought that business gave you a fantastic lifestyle and you can travel from anywhere and do it all around the world, but it's definitely not like that in at least the first few years, when you're just head down trying to get it done.
Well, I got into business for like one of my whys was money and lifestyle. Like I just wanted that entrepreneur dream where it's like, I can, it's really Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week kind of style, which is fine. But once you got to the 4-hour work week, you're like, what now? And then you travel, but you're still kind of confused because it's not not bringing you that kind of satisfaction that you thought. You just be traveling and it'll all be good, but you still want that kind of deeper purpose. It's like, it gets to be confusing then. You're like,
exactly.
When I'm working on my business, as much as traveling is fun, it's when I'm working on my business I'm happiest. I mean, that's where I've got to now.
Yeah, that's where you want to be. I mean, you wouldn't be in it if you're sort of upset and miserable.
It's just that lifestyle is sometimes a little bit oversold, that you'll just be able to run a business on autopilot and be halfway across the world. But
absolutely.
You're not solving challenges then.
Exactly.
And it's frustrating when like the internet's not working and you're trying to like
there's so many challenges. It feels, you know what I often compare it to, it's there's a monster and you sort of struck down the monster, and then you turn a corner, there's another monster, and it just keeps going on different levels, and you're trying to balance that with managing the team and all kinds of investors if you take them on. But you have to make sure.
That's it, because they're going to be like, are you here? Especially if you have investors, they're going to be like, I don't actually think it's possible to just travel the world. It could be, and I'm sure a lot of businesses have. Yeah. When you have investors, they kind of be like, are you just disappearing, or are you here to?
Yeah. Well, I think that's where it's important to differentiate between are you trying to build a venture that is game changing and solving a problem, or are you going to a lifestyle business? And I think the two are confused sometimes, but there's a massive difference.
Yeah, that's it. You've got to really be committed to that. So so you weren't working a job at the time when you started your business. You were just overseas.
Oh no, I was still at university, so that was taking up a bit of time, and then I was working at a digital marketing firm. So that was really good in terms of getting feedback from people around me. Like I'd always talk about the business at work, as you tend to do. But I think the main thing in terms of, so obviously I didn't have the real fear of leaving a 5-day-a-week job, but the fear for me was a lot of my friends were going down into the corporate route, which is stable, and going into a startup wasn't really seen as normal. It was quite sort of weird in a way, and that was a big leap for me. And there were many times when in the early days where I was like, is this the right thing to do? Maybe I should be applying for grad jobs. And yeah, just pushing through.
What did your friends and family think? Because this always amazes me. Like when I had to ring my dad and say I'm quitting my job to start a business, he's just like, why would you quit a job that's paying so well? Like, but what was it like for you when you had to tell people?
Yeah, quite a different experience. So my dad is an entrepreneur. So he's from South Africa, came over, started his own business, lives in the Philippines now. So he very much gets it. My mum is a physio. She runs her own business now, but very much a traditional mindset. So whilst I was probably a year in, she was still thinking I was going to go and work in a corporate job. So I think she did find it a bit weird, but now she's coming around as she's seeing progress. It's really, for that mindset, I've found that you actually have to show a material progress to help them come around to the idea that you're not going to go into a corporate job eventually.
Yeah, at first it's kind of like they're looking to see like, how's this all going to go? Like, are you actually going to be successful? Because I mean, I don't even know if I'm going to be successful in business. How can my dad possibly know?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a massive risk and you don't know until the end.
Yeah. I mean, like I always thought worst case, it doesn't work, I just go and get a job again. It's
exactly.
Like there's this fear around not being able to get a job, but if I was in a good paying job already, it's like,
you can always go back.
You can always go back.
I'm a big believer though that you can't really have a backup when you're in a business. Like I find if you have a backup.
You mean like the side hustle thing? Like
I think a side hustle is okay, but say you have a job lined up later down the track or something that you can very easily switch back to, then that's going to, it might not even be consciously, like subconsciously, you're going to feel a bit more comfortable when things hit the fan, and that's when you have to double down and push through it. And the only way I find you can get through those things is if there's only one way forward.
Yeah. And that's to figure it out and just to stay committed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like what's your kind of benchmark of knowing like when things are comfortable now in the business? Like when's your kind of litmus test for knowing that everything's kind of all right now? Is it when you can pay yourself a salary, or like
very good question. Not necessarily paying myself a salary. It would be the business can run itself. So just having sustainable business, that means that we don't have to rely on taking external investment. That would be like cash flow funded. That would be when I would feel comfortable that the business is going relatively well.
Yeah, you're not having to rely on the next round or the next round, or is it more just you just have confidence in that everything's kind of working?
Yeah, everything's kind of working. You're at a stable base that you can scale the business of and double down on what's working well. But if you're constantly depending on the next round of investment to come through, that's not a good position to be in. And we've 100% been there.
Yeah. But it fuels growth, right? It
does. It really does. And I've learned a lot more about the venture capital scene and what they look for and how that can actually scale up your business recently. It's not for every business at all. And I feel like often people think it is. So that's about being aware of what type of investment you can take on, how it's going to benefit. And often a relationship with an investor could be 7 years. So you really do want to be aligned with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at the moment it's kind of like I have an awesome idea. I'm going to get investment. It's going to fix all my problems. But I mean, we've mentioned this previous on this podcast. It's like investment doesn't necessarily fix problems. It just creates new ones. It solves the money issue and how to pay for people.
Yeah.
And it's not to put people off getting investments, just to be aware that it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to be like, here's my money, everything's sorted now. It just brings in a new set of problems.
Completely, it fuels what you're doing currently. Yeah. So that's the idea of it. And if you're already going down a rabbit hole, it's just going to push you down that rabbit hole further.
Yeah, it's good. So what, apart from starting the business, like now you're into the business and it's running, what are the kind of challenges that you've faced or are facing and have overcome?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, so we do have revenue, we have our first paying customer, but we're still doing a lot of testing and trying to prove out both sides of the marketplace. On one side, we're finding companies that are trying to raise funding, and on the other side, we have investors that want to invest in agriculture. So we're constantly trying to optimize each side, figure out how we can attract our target customers cost effectively, and then scale that out. Actually, everything that we're doing right now is not scalable, so, which is really interesting. And that's something that I think I was told a little bit in the early stage, that everything that you do has to be scalable,
yeah.
which is just not true in the early days, at least for a marketplace.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of manual acquisition until like enough so that it hurts, which is, it gets really frustrating, but I think that's the right way to do it. And then obviously the aim is for it to be scalable down the track.
Well, I think once you get enough brand awareness, like people will start showing up. That would be the vision, right? Like,
That's definitely the vision. Yeah.
And you're not having to go out there and find every single business to be on the platform or find every single investor. It's just like people start knowing about you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the way we're set up. Like the platform can run itself eventually. Like it matches projects with investors. But right now we're purely going out and talking to everyone one-on-one, building relationships. We think that's really important for word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, apart from building a double-sided marketplace, what are the other kind of challenges that you're facing in the business? And I mean, the reason we talk about challenges on this podcast is it good to, really highlight that, not every business gets overnight success. It seems that entrepreneurship is more about putting out fires and doing it diligently and just getting through it.
Completely.
And then the next fire shows up and you kind of put it out. So it's kind of about sharing the message that it's getting through those challenges. That's what creates entrepreneurship. It's not so much the destination, it's the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think team is another massive one. So I've realized through all these challenges that how important it is having a really good team beside you. And everyone has to be really different is what I found as well. Like if someone is sort of on the accelerator the whole time and everyone's on the accelerator, it's not necessarily the best way forward. So in my co-founding relationship, I'm definitely the one driving the bus on the accelerator, and James, my co-founder, is a bit more risk adverse, but thinks through everything really logically and sort of puts on the brake and asks why at certain points. And that's a really good relationship. And I feel like I'm sure you sort of have that relationship in your business.
Well, I'm a sole founder, so it gets a bit tricky.
Right. You're always on the accelerator,
or I don't, and then the whole business slows down. It's like one or the other,
Yeah. Okay.
Which I think is where like that's an interesting discussion actually. Like having co-founders, you kind of start to balance each other out.
Yeah.
But I have people in the business now that can slow me down or speed up as needed. But it definitely helps having other people. It can help. And it's not required, but it can help having other people in the business that can help in that domain.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a co-founder, as you said. It can be
mentors
later down the track. But I think it is essential to take the business from very early stage until actual steady state revenue.
Yeah,
but yeah,
because as visionaries, which it sounds like you are, like selling sugar sticks or fart bombs in uni, it's very visionary at that age. And I think as a visionary, you can just be too visionary sometimes, and it's just like you just think you're going to solve everything in the world.
Yeah.
And then you need people who bring you back down to reality, but not too much, because if it's too pessimistic and too like nothing's possible, then it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. I think it's that balance of like, yeah, we can do anything. Imagine how big this platform is going to be, which is awesome because you need somebody to go.
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting point. And we've always sold the vision of the business when going to investors and different pitching and things like that. And often, so I'm a big believer in mentors, and they sort of come and they say, you need to rain that down and go brick by brick. And that's something that we've learned, how to sort of achieve that vision, but very slowly. It's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. It is sort of a 5-year process.
Yeah, that's it. Because we want, I mean, Gary Vee talks about this, like you want everything to happen in an overnight success. Yeah, and that's actually what's lying in the pathway of you and success, is that you just want it now. And then you're going to give up too easily. Where it was sitting there waiting, you just weren't patient enough.
Exactly.
You've walked away, and it's like the opportunity was there. You go into another business, same problem again. You're like, what?
Yeah. And it is an absolute roller coaster. Like I don't think I've ever not wanted to do it. Like I've never doubted it, but definitely I've had days where I've been like, Jesus, this is I don't know how this is going.
Well, it is a roller coaster actually. If you put it that way, it's like you're holding on, and sometimes like you're upside down, or you're just kind of gripping the handlebars, closing your eyes, and then suddenly it's all good, and then it's back to kind of roller coaster again.
I actually like comparing it to a 24-hour sporting game. It just never ends as competition. It's just all coming from you left, right, and center.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you take a break.
Yeah. I actually just booked my first week holiday, which would be nice in August, but very keen for that.
Yeah. That's the first time since you've started the business, you're saying?
That I've had a yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah, because otherwise it's all just on the accelerator. You get so caught up in work that you need that balance too, right?
Well, absolutely. That's why we were talking about Gary Vee before. He's a fantastic person to listen to, and I really rate a lot of the stuff he says, but it's often just like go, and there's no sort of balance. And I think it's really important to actually acknowledge there's another side to it.
Well, he does go offline. If you follow him on Instagram, suddenly it just goes quiet, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm on holidays and my team's looking after it." But it's funny when his team's looking after it, everything just goes very quiet on Instagram and stuff. Yeah, and then he's back, and it's like boom, boom. It's like without him there, it just all slows down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is kind of normal. So like, what do you kind of see then? I did ask you about definition for success before, but what's your kind of routine for keeping balance in the business and, being successful?
I think I haven't been the best at balance, to be honest. And recently, probably the last sort of 2 months, I realized how important it is. Like before, I thought that everyone has to go 100 miles an hour, and that was the only way to build a business. And I've realized that that's just not the case. And I think I've realized that through listening a lot to the team. As I said, I'm sort of the person on the accelerator, so often I can't stop or find it hard to sort of relax. And listening to their needs has been really important and valuable. And so in terms of routine, I find exercise is the number one thing that really helps. I'm actually quite interested in meditation. I haven't done it enough.
Interesting, yeah.
But I've tried the apps. They're an interesting one, but I would like to get into that more.
How have you found? I mean, we talk about meditation and mindful loss on this podcast, and it's or towards this segment. It'd be interesting to see like how you find that helps you at the moment.
Well, it just allows you to remove yourself because you're just in this absolute day-to-day hustle, and things are coming at you left, right, and center. You're a firefighter in some senses, and that allows you to sort of take a break. And it's extremely hard to do. Like when I sort of try and take a break, I'm often still thinking about it. But if you are able to get to a state where you can remove yourself, then that's, I find, when you actually start to think creatively. Yeah. And that's really important when you're running a business, obviously, because that's the next step.
Yeah, it kind of feels like I know those days when the mind has just kind of taken over and it's all about everything that needs to happen today, and it's so important, and you just become this kind of demon in the office, and like you demand, and you become. I mean, this is my own observation. You become very controlling, and everything is like has to happen today, and you start micromanaging because you want everything to kind of take place. That's at least my experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through meditation and all that, it brings you back to this place where it's like, it's okay. Like, it's not that it doesn't happen today, but you're not like leaning over someone's shoulder going, where is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or are we there yet kind of mentality. Yeah. It just slows everything down. You still have that mentality and the speed and agility, but less like, hurry up guys, like why isn't it ready yet? And that drives people crazy. I mean, to me, I'm like, I just want everything to happen now. But
yeah, completely. Do you keep a free diary, or do you have everything packed into a day? Because I noticed, I think it's Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, they were having a chat, and one of them has this really packed in diary and one of them has completely clear, which is really interesting, I find. And I find that it could be quite effective to have that space to think, and obviously things come up at last minute, but being able to have that breathing space will really affect. I
agree. Like packing up your days is just going to exhaust you out. So I try to balance the calendar throughout the month. Like sometimes you just get those days where it seems like everything's sitting on that one day, and you're like, let's try to move a few people around so it just balances it out a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Because otherwise there's just so much happening. You're not going to be yourself. And in that sense, do you mean locking off time?
Yeah, locking off time to just have some space, and you're still working on the business, obviously, but it's not meetings back to back or things that you have to do. Yeah,
I agree. Like breathing room. In that in general, like even at work, it's like taking 10 minutes to just go and sit and away from the computer or go and listen to 10 minutes of a podcast or something, and then come back with a fresh mind, not completely absorbed. But I find for me, I go in like a roller coaster. It's like I just get massive motivation, everything happens, and then it withers away into like everything seems a bit slow at the moment, and then it kind of comes back again.
Yeah, exactly.
Tim Ferriss talked about that. He says the 3-month cycle. So in his vision, actually, you should work for 3 months and then holiday for 3 months.
Really?
That's
I've
that's what he says in the 4-hour work week, which we can go back to that book. But it's like the journey of an entrepreneur happens like you get these motivation cycles and then it disappears.
Yeah.
So take control of it when it's there, and then go and do creative stuff like write a book or something. That's his. I mean, he's kind of at home all the time, and he lives a different life. It's not.
Yeah, I mean
he's not
sense,
like he's awesome at what he does. It's just not. He's not in an office every day with a team. He has his team all around the world.
All around the world. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. But when you're in the early stages of building a business, it's just not practical.
And you just disappear. Yeah, it's just hanging in there. But different perspectives that just might not apply to us. But that's really good. So, I mean, in terms of AgCrowd, then. Where do you see the business going over the next like 6 months? What are the bigger visions that you'll be facing, and challenges that you'll be overcoming?
Yeah, so for us, we're really focused on impact, specifically for agriculture and renewable energy. So we're trying to currently get traction, both by giving value to companies through capital raising, but more than that, we're trying to create an ecosystem around that, which really helps them grow. And we have done that for our first client. They're extremely stoked with the service we provided. So that's a massive
nice
win for us. And then for investors, it's trying to give them access to impact opportunities that they previously couldn't access or just didn't have the education around. So we're really interested in trying to match the two at the moment. And from there, so next 6 months will be largely proving out the model, getting new customers, before we move on to sort of the big vision stuff. And there's many things I want to build into the platform, but yeah, as you said, it's trying to get those initial stages and brick by brick build to that.
Do you see it like the investors are coming to you saying the business they want to invest in, or are you still having to go out there to kind of find every business?
It's really a bit of both, actually. So there actually was a turn, and you might have found this with your business too. There was a turning point where you've spent so much time just contacting people outbound, and then people start to realize that you exist and come and just magically land on your website. And that was probably 8 months ago for us now. And I'm still every day contacting a lot of people. But yeah, a lot of people do come onto our site, and that's when I call them, and they actually are interested because they've found their own way and have a need. To solve the problem.
I see it it takes time to put a business out there in the world. It's like in 6 months, for instance, you launch. It's like you haven't met enough people, or you haven't found enough people for it to it may not be that the business isn't worth anything or the product's not valuable. It's just you haven't found enough people that match that, right?
Yeah,
that are interested in that. So that's what, same thing for us. It was like 6 months. It just kind of went nowhere, and then suddenly they call it like the Nike ticker just takes off because it's like boom.
Yeah.
Or the hockey stick. Yeah. And then when it takes off, you're like, okay, cool. Like people are starting to hear about the business now, and then how did you find out about us, and then invest more into those kind of avenues. Yeah,
but that's what I'm interested in. What in that 6 months, were there any points where you thought it might not work?
Yeah, definitely.
What made you push to that 6 month mark?
Yeah, like in my business at EasyCompanies, I was pretty much ready to give up. Like I was 6 months in, I'm like, not again. I've started another business that's not going anywhere.
Right.
Like, because I'd done 4 or 5 before that. And I'm like, damn it, like I'm never going to be good at entrepreneurship. So I'm like, that's it. If within 2 months it hasn't taken off, then I'll walk away and just take this as a learning exercise.
Okay. So
literally within like 3 weeks for that, it just rocketed and went like, I had 2 team members working within 4 months, 4 weeks. Like I'd literally, the revenue came in, I'd hired them, and it was all, within that 2 months, that was it. Like,
yeah, wow.
I had people answering the phones because it got so exhausting. Like I was answering all the phones myself. And
so you wouldn't say you knew that point was going to come?
No.
It just happened.
It just happened. I think what it is the minute you're kind of ready to say, I'm not attached to the outcome, it's all good. Yeah. Like I would like the business to succeed, but it's not going to bring me down, then it takes off. That's how I see it. Like once you let go of that holding on so tight, and just go, that's okay. Like this is going to be cool if the business takes off.
Yeah.
Once you kind of step back from that, then it just works. That's the way I kind of see it. And I've seen that pattern a lot through the business.
Yeah.
When I stop holding on so tight, it just somehow works. It's like,
yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. Like it doesn't mean like I don't care about the business if it doesn't work or not. It just means I'm not so attached to the outcome of this having to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a large part of sort of achieving product market fit and getting to that stage. Once you do, then that's when you can take your hands off the handlebars.
That's it. Yeah, and I think that's it also. Like it all just suddenly comes together and works. I don't know. People just show up out of nowhere, and it's like our SEO just suddenly took off, and I didn't know that was going to happen. But yeah, I think it applies to that same mentality. You never know when it's going to happen. So
exactly,
yeah, it's good. Well, look, it's been great having you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks.
And I look forward to kind of following the journey of AgCrowd over the next year or so.
Definitely.
So yeah, thanks for having you on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. Also, if you haven't already, check out our YouTube channel. It's available under the EasyCompanies account, and there'll be a 9 to Survive playlist. So I hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to seeing you next time.